what's up? I'm excited to teach you guys how to squat today. Squat is definitely my best lift, as you can see. My best squat is 830 pounds raw in a competition, and my best in the gym is 865 pounds at 198 body weight. So today I'm going to break down how I set up the squat, some of the important cues you should go over, and some things you should think about that make your squat better. I'm going to break down low bar to high bar, your setup, starting from the ground all the way up to your bar placement. And I'm excited to show you guys how to get a big successful squat. So today I got my friend Paul Tyler. I've been training with Paul for a while at Lexington Extreme. He lifts raw and also multiply. And today I'm going to use him as an example to show you guys how to squat and go over a couple things that you should think about when you go to set up and also before you go to squat, and how you should break everything down. So we're going to start off by breaking down his foot placement. So anyway, this is how Paul sets up the squat. Everyone is built differently. So you can see Paul's feet are fairly wide. He also lifts in gear and he also lifts raw. So everyone's femur length and everyone's hip socket is built and shaped differently. So no one's going to be the same. Some people have long femurs, some people have short torsos. Everyone is different. So first thing I want to do is look at his feet and his alignment of his feet. Right here is perfect. When Paul goes to set up the squat, he's thinking about grabbing the ground with his feet and externally rotating. So when he does that, he's able to incorporate more of his hamstring and more of his glute, and his hips are stabilized. When he does that, he is locked into the ground and there's less movement. There's less knee cave, there's less hip shift, and he's in a good stable position. So from there, Paul is aligned. Now Paul squats low bar. So the bar sits approximately right here across his rear delts and right below his traps. I used to squat high bar. When I switched from high bar to low bar, my squat went up probably 150 pounds just from the switching of high bar to low bar. Now it depends on how you build is what you should do. So Paul, as he is low bar squatting, the bar sits right here before he lifts the weight out. Now everyone has a different setup. You know, some people have a monolift, some people walk the weight out. Me and Paul train out of a monolift most of the time, so we usually don't walk the weight out. So as he's setting up, before he even lifts the weight out of the rack, this is a very crucial point. He's going to pick the weight with his hips when he goes to lift it out. So he's already pulling his hips under the bar. A lot of people want to have their hips back here and they'll unrack like this. You don't want that. You want to pull your hips under the bar and pick the weight up with your hips. That's like he did. As he picked the weight up with his hips like this, everything's in alignment. Here, Paul, do that one more time real quick for me. Okay. So watch how he picks the weight up right here with his hips. Just like that. Go ahead and rack it real quick. Sweet. So that's what you want to do. And another reason you want to do that is because it keeps you in a good position. You want to make sure you have proper pelvic and spinal alignment the whole time. You don't want your pelvic tilt to be forward or backwards. You want a neutral pelvic alignment and spinal alignment. While you have a neutral pelvic alignment and spinal alignment, it will let you be able to brace properly. And once you take in air, you can push it down and externally into your belt, creating good abdominal pressure, but stabilizes your spine. Therefore, it won't be any movement. You'll be able to create pressure and stay tight the entire squat. So that's another thing that we work on too when we train. Another part too. So go ahead and line up again real quick for me. So as you can see, Paul is lined up here. Before Paul squats, one of the keys that I tell him or that we tell each other is to make sure you're in this position. See how upright he is? The whole time you want to stay in that position. Too many people, when they're squatting out of the hole, they lose this upright position. So I tell Paul, and we also think that there's almost like a hook on his chest pulling him up diagonally toward the wall. So that creates him to pull his chest through and gets him more upright in the upper back. So when you think about arching into a squat, you don't want to think about moving your hips. You want to make sure your hips are under you, but I create a slight arch in the upper back just so you're able to pull down and draw the bar closer into you. You want to think there's like a pencil between your upper back here because you're drawing the bar in. You want your lat to be connected to your belt and all this to be one and stay really, really tight. So once you have that set up, you're in a good position to squat. Now before you lift the weight out, Paul's going to take a big air and he's going to brace down and out externally into his obliques as if there was a belt there. So go ahead and do that. He's picking with his hips. Perfect. Now he's in a position to squat. The bar is low bar. The upper back is very tight. He's in a good position right here. His hips are under him. Now this is a crucial point right here. A lot of people when they squat straight down. You don't want to do that. There's a lot of forward knee travel. You don't want that in your squat. So the first thing we think, don't even think you have knees at this point. Think in your head, you have hips and that's it. So the movement when you squat should always be at your hips first. So go ahead and break at your hips a little bit. Now squat down a little bit. See how he's in this position? Hold that right there. He's breaking at his hips first and then his knees are coming. They'll start breaking naturally. Once he's spreading his groin open, he's opening up into a squat. All his hips and glutes and hamstrings are loaded. So go ahead and squat down. Right there is perfect. That's exactly how you want to be. Now go ahead and come out of the hole. Now, as you come out of the hole, you want to stay tight just like he was there, keeping that upright position. What I cue my lifters and my clients and also some of my training partners, I tell them to think that there is a wall behind them. When there is that wall behind them right here, they want to stay up against it the whole squat. When I think that wall is right here behind me, I don't want to move. So go ahead and squat again. He's breaking at his hips. Everything is upright. So from here, the first thing Paul thinks in his head, there's that wall behind him. So he wants to drive back into the wall. When you do that, that forces you to stay in that upright position and you won't move. A lot of people when they squat, they'll think about legs first and they let their upper back cave and they'll come out of the hole like this. Once you have an upright position and you think back first out of the hole, there's no move, there's no cage, there's no folding in the squat. You're gonna stay tight and stay upright like Paul did. You can go ahead and rack it. There we go. So he was able to stay upright, he was able to stay up against that wall, and he was able to stay in position the whole time while keeping pressure. Everything's tight, there's no loose muscles, there's nothing that's gonna be able to falter during that squat. So we'll go ahead and run through everything one more time and break everything down. So the first thing you wanna do when you squat, make sure your feet are in a good position. Once your feet are in a good position, you're gonna make sure your bar placement is correct. Once your bar placement is correct, before you pick the weight out of the rack, you wanna make sure you're bracing down and out externally into your obliques. From there, once you unrack the weight, make sure you unrack it with your hips. Once your hips are under you and you're picking the weight out of the rack, you wanna make sure you're in an upright position. Before you go to squat, make sure you break at your hips and not your knees. Once you're sitting back into a squat and you've broken at your hips, you want to think about spreading your taint, as Ed Cohen would say. So think about spreading your legs apart. And once you start doing that, sit back into the squat and keep that upright position. As well, the whole time, keeping that abdominal pressure. Once you have that, when you're coming out of the hole, think about driving out of the hole with your back first. Think about that wall behind you and driving back into the bar. Once you drive your back into the bar, you're in a good position. One more little tip that I will give that's helped me and helped a lot of other lifters from keeping you going forward. A lot of lifters want to go forward when they squat. Besides thinking about the wall behind you, think about your chin placement. You want to make sure your chin is stacked back like this and slightly up. What that does is causes better spinal alignment. So when I go to unrack the weight, my chin is back and my head is up slightly. And from there, I keep that same position. A lot of people have their head out here. If your head's out here, you're going to go this way. You want your head back and stacked and slightly up. And then you're in that same position the whole time and you're driving out of the hole. That's another thing that Paul does really well, his head position. He's thinking about driving back into the bar, head's up, his chin is stacked back, and his head is slightly looking upward a little bit. Not too much, you don't want to look too high up because you lose stability and balance. You're going to make sure you almost pick a spot in the wall or look straight ahead while that head is in a good position with your spine. That's pretty much it. That's all I really have to say about going in and set up for a big squat. That's what I go through, some of the cues that run through my mind. The best way to break this down is to go one thing at a time. Think about your setup with your feet, think about your setup with the bar, think about your bar placement and how you're going to unrack the bar, and think about your squat. Just the biggest thing is make sure everything is tight. There's been times I've been squatting top sets and really heavy weight that I sometimes lose stability and I forget cues. Once you remember all these cues, you're able to put them all together, and one by one it becomes really natural and you don't even think about it anymore, you just do it. So if you have any questions, make sure to comment or send me a DM on Instagram. I will reply to everyone. I'll give you the most help as I can. Don't be afraid to send me any videos of your squat. I will give you advice and break them all down. I just want everyone to get a bigger squat and get better at what they do. So my goal in powerlifting has always been to spread knowledge and help as many individuals as I can, as I was helped by many great lifters and individuals as well. So I just want to make the sport better and help the sport grow. And I really appreciate you guys for watching this video. Make sure to comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I'm ready to show you guys some really good information this year, and stay on the lookout for my next YouTube video.